Hey everyone, this is Curb Knight, bringing you another standard match. Today we have myself on the right, playing Maelstrom, kind of just testing it for as after the updates from Festival Booster, because apparently everyone wants to see this deck. Because in case you missed my little poll, there's so many. Everyone just voted for Maelstrom. It's just I just find that really funny. But anyways, we are going to be seeing me going off against Michu, which is the deck on the left, in case you're confused by the Hololive cards. But we are seeing just the typical Michu thing, searching out the all setup, which is what you want to do, putting into the order zone, and then just tapping it in order to soul charge one. So now we are actually seeing myself doing something using the cycle cards, which is one of the updates I made to the deck. But I don't really think it's that good, as we're gonna kind of see. I'll probably end up talking a little bit more about it in the deck profile itself, but we do see me rushing here just a little bit, calling out that wheel assault and swinging at the Vanguard, thankfully not hitting into a defensive, so that I can swing at the Theo and actually connect with that, pushing the Michu player to 2 already. So we are seeing the grade 2 from Kyrie being played in the right deck. We are going to be calling down that grade 1, which lets you Soul Blast 1 and check the top card of your deck. You don't actually get to do anything with it, but you just, you know, do that. Anyways, we are seeing a couple of things here. We're seeing the Flower Cannonball played due to the effect of, I can't remember which it is, but something plays it, and then when it's played you draw a card, and then I believe the Nonoko also lets you Soul Blast 1 and call it out when you play an order. But we are seeing the Vanguard swing bouncing back that grade 2, and then of course we have that other grade 2, which is a 10k shield and 13k attacker. I do manage to get a defensive on, I believe that was the second swing, so I am only going to be getting through this turn with just the 1 damage. Now there, but oh yeah, we did see my wheel assault die because I did hit that defensive, so effectively it's a 50-50 on like how good it's going right now. But we do unfortunately have that 13k attacker, which is definitely going to be very annoying for my deck to deal with, since one of our main attackers is Tidal Assault, and Tidal Assault does not really go back up past 10 on his own. But we are going to see how we want to handle it. So I am actually going to be calling out the Tideline Dragon. In this instance, I'm kind of just using it as a 10k body, swinging at the Vanguard, trying to push as much damage as early as I can, because I do know that Michu is a deck that can be very explosive, and I do kind of want to close things out as quickly as possible. And we do see him slowly running low on cards, because he did call effectively a full board, and a lot of his resources are on board. So if I can just keep this pressure up, I do find it myself being pretty confident that I can actually close out the game. But we are seeing the Michu skill here used to counterblast 1 and then call that grade 2 from the hand. And then because it was actually placed by the Vanguard's ability, it does get an extra 10k. We are seeing the Flower Cannonball used, which allows you to change the Cannonball ability of Michu from retiring 1 unit to giving 3 rear guards, or 3 units I should say, an extra 10k. Swinging into the Vanguard, I'm just going to be taking it. We don't see a critical trigger, but we do see a draw trigger. I hit a defensive trigger, but this other rear attack is still hitting for like a very nice number, which would be a 20k guard from me. I decide I don't really want to commit it, especially since I don't play front, so it's a little bit harder. That would be a 2-card guard, so I just opt to take it, hitting into another critical trigger, which is kind of unfortunate to just have wasted just 2 defensives there. But we are seeing the riding of the Maelstrom, which is hopefully we can get something good off the top 7. Ideally a Inlet Pulse Dragon, but looks like we're gonna have to settle for a Wheel Assault here. So deciding to leave that Wheel Assault into the other column, I believe I'm going to be making a little bit of a misplay here, where I am going to be calling out the Inlet from hand. I'll also be calling out a Tidal Assault from hand and another Inlet from the drop zone with the Judgment Maelstrom's ability. But I think what the main misplay here is that I called out the Tidal Assault from hand, and unfortunately we do have a 13k rear guard, which means Tidal Assault is essentially just hitting for nothing. So what I think I should have done here is actually just call out the Theo, because Theo would be able to contest that rear guard because he is a 13k attacker, and I would just swing with him first. And even if we did intercept, because in this situation when you call out the Tidal Assault instead, really you have to you have to attack with the other inlet pulse first, and obviously he is going to be intercepting with the other grade 2, because then Tidal Assault can just attack into it. So really a misplay on my part. We might see it just kind of costing me, just like having a fake swing is really something you don't want in Maelstrom. So we are seeing me going for those 4 attacks. I believe we did 1, 2, and then we used the Wheel Assault to push the inlet pulse that was in back into the front. So we do actually see me hitting a double trigger here, draw into a crit, and then swing with that last inlet pulse, pushing the opponent to 5, which is definitely where we want them. So coming into this next turn, as long as we don't see a heal trigger out of the opponent, we do have a very good chance of actually closing things out. But we do have to see how much Michu can actually how much defense it can amass, how much it can do, how much it can build its board, because we do have those 10k interceptors, which also double as attackers. We are seeing a mirrored columns on both sides with the 13k attacker and the top deck checker. Looks like we are opting to just swing with the Michu, swinging for a pretty big 31, drive checking into a critical trigger, opting to put all of it into the Nonoko, or whatever her name is, and then obviously using this skill to swap it into the front Vanguard circle. So it does keep all of the trigger power, and of course we are still under Persona Ride, so this is going to be a 21k or 28k column, which is definitely very threatening, especially since this is 2 triggers, or this is 2 crit. So I'm going to opt to 2 to pass it, which is effectively going to be an OT to pass because it is a grade 1 and only has 1 drive check. So we are swinging, going to be swinging this 31, and I think I make another misplay here. I really think I should have just tried to guard this with what I had in hand. I do hit into a defensive trigger here, so this theoretically is just a 20k block, but unfortunately that Nonoko is going to be very annoying because it is the Vanguard, which means it turns off all of your shield value cards. So we're going to see me here accidentally guarding with 2 draw triggers, which normally would have been enough, but since the Vanguard is not at grade 3, I am just going to have to commit that PG instead to block it. Realistically, I probably should have tried to guard that first attack and then just take the second swing, which I believe was 1 damage. I think it was just a draw. Yeah, it was just a draw trigger. So a little bit of another misplay on my part. We're going to see how much it impacts. So here we're definitely not looking in a great position because we don't have a Persona Ride. So if we had actually been able to Persona Ride, I'm pretty sure we would have been able to close it out this turn. We don't have a ton of cards in hand, and I do have my board set up pretty well, and especially with that Tide line, if I have attacks that are calling for like 15k guards on every single swing when you're at 5 damage, that is very difficult for most decks to survive, especially with, I think that's like 6 or 7 cards in hand. And we do have the 2 intercepts, but Maelstrom is a deck that kind of just like eats through hand when you are at 5 or at high damage, I should say. So we are going to be playing one of the new cards from Festival Boosters that I did add to the deck. I remember thinking in this situation that I wished it was just the Persona Ride order, because that would be doing so much more for me. We do see me calling out another Inlet Pulse from the deck, as well as a copy of Persona Ride. I called out the Persona Ride just to deck thin to kind of improve my chances of actually hitting triggers. But as we're going to be seeing here, it's not really going to be doing much because we're just going to be calling out an inlet over it. So it's honestly just to deck thin. At this point, I was not playing any other grade 3s other than the Inlet Pulse. But as you'll probably see in the deck profile, I have changed that since. I'm going to be swinging the Tidal Assault and then doing something that I don't usually do, but because I don't really want to restand the Tidal Assault because it's just going to be swinging at nothing. Just like I talked about last turn, it would be an empty swing, so I'd rather commit the Soul Blast and move up the Inlet Pulse that can actually hit in order to get more attacks that actually do something. Swinging the Vanguard, which is going to be guarded by an OT, drive checking into, unfortunately, another copy of the Judgment of the Storm and a Wheel Assault. So kind of hurting on shield value. We are going to be drawing 2 more cards off of the Inlet Pulse, so we do have the possibility of actually surviving this. I think we have something like 6 or 7 cards in hand. No Persona Ride from the Michu. We are seeing the Counterblast 1 call 1, giving that grade 2 another 10k. And if we have a way to recur the Nonoko, maybe we can get those 4 attacks. But at this point, it's looking a little bit awkward because I don't think we have another Nonoko in hand. We are calling that grade 3, which is a card that gets extra 5k and then another 5k. But looks like we are actually just using the Michu skill to give itself 5k and retire one of the opponent's cards, retiring the Wheel Assault. Looking at my hand, I believe I drew into a copy of Persona Ride and an Inlet Pulse off of my 2 inlet, which is definitely the worst possible draw in that I could do. A little bit of a misplay here. I commit the 15k guard when I'm going to end up just 1-to-passing this. I do have a draw trigger in hand, which I should probably have just used instead. But realistically, the only way I'm surviving this is if I 1-to-pass the Vanguard, and then I should have enough to actually guard the other rearguard swings, and then I would actually be able to close it out. But unfortunately, we do see that critical trigger coming on in, and that is going to be the end of the match. So we are actually going to be able to see what I have here. The Inlet Pulse and the Maelstrom Persona Ride just clogging up my hand, and I did draw into OT, so I would have just needed to guard one of the rear swings. I think I had enough to guard for 33. Yes, if I had guarded with one of the draw triggers, I would have been able to guard for 1-to-pass, because that would have been 23 to 18, and then a 15k plus a 5k is a 33, and then I can just guard the last one with OT. But that is going to be the end of the match. Just a bit rambling here. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to do all those YouTube things, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.